Okay, it's recorded.
Yep.
So welcome everyone to Oktoberfest. We're really thrilled to host this event this year. This is the first time we host it under GDG Kuwait, also with association with the GDG Sharjah and Arab Week and the Open UAE University, as well as finest from with the CDO of finest Hamad Al-Ghanem. And I'll let Shuruq to continue the introduction.
Okay. Welcome everyone to our event. This is a one-day event that we organized with GDG Kuwait and Open UAE, GDG Sharjah, Arab Week, Finest, ACM chapter of University of Sharjah. I would like to welcome all of our guest speakers for you all. We have Dr. Manar Abu Talib, Nafisa, Hamad Al-Ghanem, CTO of Finest, Fatima, Daqalbab, Taqwa, Umniya, Umar. Please welcome them all. They will be giving you amazing talks today, and I hope you all benefit from them. So we can start with a quick video about HacktoberFest. Arwa, please go ahead. Arwa, I think the audio is not working. Oh, yes. 1 second, we'll fix that. Arwa, can you change the sharing option with audio?
Okay.
In the meantime, well, I hope everyone is ready for our activities today.
Swag bag. This is so
Yeah.
Can you hear the audio of the
Yeah.
video?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right, then I'll just.
It's October already.
It's a HacktoberFest.
And if you don't know what HacktoberFest is,
It's a celebration.
And it's an open source.
HacktoberFest is a month-long celebration of open source software.
Created by DigitalOcean.
It's changing the world one pull request at a time.
You can be a developer, designer, or even a content writer.
In short, you do open source contributions and you get lots of swag.
That's swag bag. This is so amazing.
Oh, look what I got. Yeah.
A HacktoberFest t-shirt, guys.
I would like to thank DigitalOcean for sending me this t-shirt because I was participating in HacktoberFest.
So join us for this year's celebration of open source software at HacktoberFest.com.
Let's get hacking.
All right.
It's October already.
That was awesome. I hope this got you all excited. And we have a quick overview of our agenda. So we're going to do a quick introduction on Hacktoberfest, and you're going to hear a message from the DigitalOcean CEO. We have our first guest speaker panel discussion, the power of open source in empowering and shaping our future. We're going to have a quick break, and then we're going to start with introduction to open source with Hamad. And after that, we're going to have a workshop, make your first pull request on GitHub with Arwa. And finally, we would like to hear from the audience about their contributions and what projects that they participated in during the HacktoberFest event, or they would like to, and maybe listen to their questions. And yeah, so let's get started.
Awesome.
Hi, Yancey Spruill here, DigitalOcean CEO, and I'd like to welcome you to the 7th annual HacktoberFest. HacktoberFest is a month-long celebration of open source software for all 31 days in October. And in this event, this month-long event, we bring together over 100,000 people to contribute to the betterment of open source software. At this annual event, we have open source projects where developers become contributors, students and early learners, learn more and build their passion and experience. And we gather people together online. Historically, we've done offline, but in 2020, I suspect will be predominantly online. But we bring people together from over 150 countries throughout the world. At DigitalOcean, one of our core values is around community. And a pillar of the language of that value is we say, our community is bigger than just us. And I can find no better representation of our investment and our passion for fostering the global community of developers and entrepreneurs than Hacktoberfest. It's an important element for us because it brings so many people together in this very global way for 31 days, and it generates so much excitement and passion around one of our core value propositions as a business, which is around open source. And what we believe happens during the month of Hacktoberfest, not only do we bring people together, but we help people learn and we help people grow. And that's a fundamental tenet of what we're all about at DigitalOcean in terms of enabling global entrepreneurs and developers to test ideas, build their businesses, and chase their dreams. So what we hope that you'll gain is that you'll participate, you'll learn a little bit more, you'll join a project, you'll meet new people, and you'll help make open source software better for the legions of people who use it today and well into the future. So with that, I can't wait to see you all and what you will come up with this year at Hacktoberfest. And remember that for those projects that are accepted, you get the famous DigitalOcean Hacktoberfest t-shirt, a prize well worth earning during the month of October. So until then, be well, and we'll see you in October.
All right.
Hi, Yancey Spruill.
So
I'll leave you with Arwa then.
all right. Thank you, Sharon. Okay, so what's Hacktoberfest? Hacktoberfest is a long month celebration in open source software presented by DigitalOcean, Intel, and the dev community. It usually takes time from the start of October until the 31st of October. But up to, because we were having like a little bit of busy schedule on October with the DevFest events and stuff like that, we had to host it at the end of October. Yet you still have time to participate in it for tomorrow and after tomorrow. So you have Friday and Saturday. All right. Maintainers are invited to guide would-be contributors toward issue that will help move the project forward. No contribution is too small. One of the things, or one of the tips that's in general that I got personally as participating in open source is start with small contributions, bug fixes, even in documentation, even in typo. So start small and take it one step at a time. All right. Why do we contribute in an open source? First of all, we give back to the community, and we would see the impact of the open source with our panel discussion later on, inshallah, as well as with Hamid's personal experience. You build new skills and gain experience. One of the best things for developers to gain experience and see how code are being implemented is to get into other people repository or project or libraries, let's say, and read the code, fix some stuff, try to use them in their own project, and little by little you gain experience, or you get to know, and to be exposed to a new let's say what's called تطبيقات, or new methods of coding. Or well, one of the things that many companies look into is your resume and your GitHub profile. So as a developer, if you have like contributed in open sources, most big companies would care about your GitHub. A lot of companies abroad, I wouldn't say implemented in Kuwait, but abroad would see for your contribution. They don't care about your a degree, basically. You might have like a diploma, or you might not have graduated computer science. That wouldn't affect your career in being a developer if you have like a great GitHub profile. You would have the chance to meet awesome people and have the good network. You will always need your support system to grow and expand with and get exposure as well. So that's contribution in open source is a great place to do that. Turn your side project into a full-blown open source product. And I think on this particular point, maybe Hamid can speak about his own personal experience. And it's fun, basically. You get to code all the time. Okay. So what's special about Hacktoberfest? First of all, you get to get a free T-shirt once you submit 4 pull requests anytime between the month of October. The T-shirt will be awarded to the first 70,000 participants who successfully complete the Hacktoberfest challenge. Just note that the low quality or spammy contribution won't be counted, and whatever pull request that you have to submit has to be under the Hacktoberfest label. I think this is just applied for this year. Okay. And I think we're kind of ahead of schedule. Dr. Manar, should we proceed with the introduction? Okay, I think, okay. Please proceed, Dr. Manar.
Okay, I will share my screen.
Just one point, if anyone have a question, please put it in the chat, and me or Shuruq will answer once we get the chance, or anyone actually.
So I welcome everyone. I'm very happy to see 43 participants in this room today. كل عام وانتم بخير بسبب المولد النبوي. And I would like to welcome everyone, many exciting people from the software engineering students, the University of Sharjah, AUK University, the Arab Week chapters. So I can see nice visibility from different communities. I will introduce myself for those who doesn't know me. I'm Dr. Manar Abu Talib. I teach in University of Sharjah in UAE. I'm very glad to see Shuru is doing great job of connecting countries together. So she's doing excellent efforts in connecting the chapters, the GDG, the Arab Week chapters between UAE, Kuwait, and hopefully in Egypt, because she moved recently to Egypt. So this is the nice thing about this digital world. We feel that we are strongly connected and we can still transfer knowledge and talk about everything together, even though the pandemic or other distance things that happen here. So I also work and lead with my some other doctors and It is country initiative to lead the open source in the UAE. That's why you see here in the first logo for the Open UAE, it is a country level initiative, has happened in 2016 that combined the efforts for the open source. Exactly the same way that we see it all over the world, we try to empower our developers to have them doing great efforts in the open source. And gladly working in GDG communities, they are raising the awareness for having the open source and to make this culture happening closely to the students, developers, and different levels of developers while they are in industry, academia. And I have the logo for the SCM, since we have 3 chapters in UAE. So SCM is for computing, and it is one of the associations that should also encourage the open source movement. And of course, the Arab women in computing, the last logo. This is where we are empowering our women because they are excellent programmers, and they can play a vital role in the open source. So everyone agree, especially my software engineering students, everyone agree that the software is playing a vital role. We are breathing the software. We are having it in our mobiles. We are having and see it wherever we go in private, public environments and sectors. We see it everywhere. Everything that we touch and feel, it is a software. And we do our daily task based on software. So software and IT spending, especially that we count on them on our daily life tasks, they are having around 3.5 trillion in 2020 as a spending, which is really a good budget from the country to put in the IT sector, in the IT infrastructure. Many of them are software, as it is shown in this table: data center systems, IT services, the software itself, some communication services. So the software is spending a lot of money. It is a backbone of any economy of any country. So $3.5 trillion just spending in the software and the IT. Do you know how many zeros in the trillion? The 3.5 trillion, it's 11 zeros. So as I said, it's a budget of the country. So what is an open source? And why I'm bringing the $3.5 trillion? Because there is a good connection when we talk about money, and we are saving money through the open source software. We need to talk about money. So what is an open source software? Especially in the Arab countries, we really need to raise the awareness and to make sure that this definition and these great efforts are known and with high awareness to all students, to all developers, to all industry, and even the decision makers in the country, they need to know about it. So open source software, it is the source code where it is available for all for free. But why it should be available for free? For noble objectives, for so many reasons. One of them, to have a better quality software, to have a higher reliability, to have more flexibility while you are developing, to have the independency between you and the vendor. You don't have to have this tight every time. You need to change something in the software, you are tied to the vendor to ask him. So open source, it came with a noble objective. From its name, it is labeled, it is open for you, open to innovate, open to contribute. So the main thing about the open source software is the society come first, and then the individual commercial gain comes as a second. And there is no harm that you think about your financial or individual gaining, but you need also to have the society back to community, as Yusra said, Arwa said. So she pointed out nice points about the open source, and what comes first and what to trigger first is us to work as one community, giving back to the society. Start to not be selfish, but think about the group and the community and how we can benefit them. some history. I just picked up some history, interesting history. In 1976, Bill Gates, he declared in front of all software companies and for the whole world that he will have his products closed and no one can see them. So if you need to see them, if you need to buy them, so you need to buy for their license fees and so forth. Everyone knows who's Bill Gates. He is the co-founder for the Microsoft. Everyone knows that Bill Gates is a pioneer entrepreneur, and he started to write his first coding at age of 13. He started a small club of programmers with his friends, and he was very successful in the software industry. With all the respect to him, and I also respect the commercial software. I'm not here to fight for the commercial software, but I'm trying to raise the awareness about the open source. The other gentleman, because you know Bill Gates, he's very famous, but you don't know. Do you know this man? Do you know this man? He's a very famous, by the way. He's very, very famous. He finished physics in Harvard University. He wanted to do the doctorate in physics in the first 1 year. He liked to work in MIT in the artificial intelligence lab in the 70s. And he was the co-founder and activist for the open source software. So in 1970s or in 1983, he launched the GNU for the operating system, and I think you know what is it. So he put it for free. And before that, in early 1970, why I put the early 1970s, just to show you that the idea of open source was old. It wasn't new. Yes, the initiative, open source initiative, it was in 1990, but the term, as a term, it is now well known as open source. But as an old history, it was there. And people, they were fighting like Richard Stallman, this guy, the very famous guy, the activist. And he was trying till nowadays to fight for the open source. He was the co-founder for the Free Software Foundation. And then this guy, he was the co-founder for Open Source Initiative in 1999. He published a book before that, and this book has done a big noise. This book is Cathedral and Bazaar. Cathedral, it's for the commercial, and Bazaar, he wants to say the open source. And because of his book, many people, they changed their mindset about distributing the code and to contribute the code and to have the code open. So they really worked hard, activists for the open source, and it is a very old debate between the two paradigms, the open source and the closed source. Till now we have this debate. Till now there is the negotiation and the discussion and everything. I'm not today just to show who is better than what. I would say they can complement each other. Each has its own pros and cons, but for me today, my duty to you to raise the awareness of open source. We need to have a generation who are fully aware what is the open source noble objective. So as Arwa mentioned some good points, and I will add to them a little more. You have, as a community, you have a free access to this coding. There is no this hectic fees that you have to pay for the license. Here, the open is that it is open. It is open. And when it is open, innovation comes in. Very like this, straightforward. And you can easily customize it. It is open, so you can change it to customize it according to your needs, to organization need, to everything. And of course, the strong point about open source, you have not this tied to the vendor. You are not slave to the vendor. You are free to do anything with the software. Also, the economy, the money, it is zero cost. The customer can fix things him or herself, and you can really remove any barriers for your business. You are not tied to go to vendors and to pay the license fees, to buy the software. There is a big community behind this who are networking and talking to each other. And really, you can fix bugs and do things. So basically, it has a lot of advantages. This is, we know, but the awareness about it is a little bit. And of course, open source is not all advantages. It could have other cons, but they are doable. And I will tell you by real examples how they are doable. So sometimes, and my research assistants in this session, they will know and they will share with you their experience. There is a lot of technical support, documentation, sometimes for some projects. But there are the big projects of open source supported by a big number of developers in the open source community. There are some availability of documents. So it is kind of a trade-off. So some of the projects you might struggle to get some professional support and to get some training or documentation or answers when you try it yourself. But the good thing about this, when you try it yourself and keep doing it, actually it's increasing the skills of your coding, and it make you even more stronger because you are exploring and you are adding, and you might give this training and put it in the repository for the others to help them. And this is the beauty. This is the beauty of the open source community. So sometimes when everyone is working in this community, some of the cons is the quality assurance, the handling and controlling of all of updates happening from a massive number of developers. So this might be an issue. But again, I don't look at these as an issues or cons. But this is what the paper says and the scientific statistics says about the cons. These are behind, they are powerful thing because the community do them and they try to improve the quality, and they are in continuous improvement and continuous efforts. And I will bring you a real life example about this. So let's see pictures. Pictures spoke louder than anything else. You will see open source everywhere, operating systems. You see them in office productivity, web browsers. Here in the web browsers, you might see Safari. Safari is closed, but the WebKit for Safari is open source. Here, the learning management systems, the content management systems, we have plenty. It is a huge world of open source. You have the library system, the graphics. Whenever you need any system, just search in the open source, you will find there is a system that handles that specific requirement to you. In mathematics, in databases, to how it works, how the community works. They are massive number of developers. They are massive number of projects. Many of them are, we are depending on them. Many of them, you use them and you don't know it is open source. So how this community work? They have a repository where they put the code available to everyone. And many developers, they are working on this source code independently, and they inject it every time after their updates. And of course, all of these are led by a project leader, but all of these people are volunteers. The beauty of volunteering, the missing culture in many countries. We really need to push our people to know how to volunteer. Volunteering is only good people, they do it. Volunteering is a culture and a mindset that we need to put it inside our generations. So to speak higher and to prove it by real example, I searched and I wanted to choose something that will touch your heart and you will not forget it after today's session. 10 facts, but I will pick up some facts. 10 facts about open source for Linux kernel. You know what is Linux kernel? It is a main component inside the Linux operating system that control the interface between the hardware and the processes. You might not know that it is open source, but it is open source, and all the world are depending in the Linux kernel. To prove it by numbers, because numbers speak higher than anything else. 90% of the public cloud workload is in Linux system, in the Linux operating system. 62% it is of the unbeaten market share. And 99% it is of the supercomputer market share. We are having open source in all of our devices, also in the cloud when it comes to the Linux operating system. Now, we said it's massive developers. Let's see the numbers. For this kernel Linux, since 2005, how many developers contributed? 15,600 developers. How many companies? Who are the companies supported this open source project for kernel? It is 1,400 companies. They contributed to the kernel Linux open source. Great numbers. This is massive. Is it true? Changes. Do you think that we do software and we don't change? Do we do software and khalas, we finished our job? Of course, it changes is a nature of a software, and my software engineering students, they know that. I keep telling them this. They are bothered. Every class, I tell them a change is a nature. How many changes they did? In the history of the kernel, they did 83,000 changes. Are they randomly done? They are not randomly done. They are done with the accurate follow-up, with the objective to improve the software, because it's affecting and impacting the entire world. The entire world is based on the kernel, this kernel inside the Linux operating system. So it comes, these changes, good developers from open source, 4,319. And how many cooperation or companies? 519 contributing just for the changes of this software. It's very amazing. These are true numbers. Patching is improving. It's like maintenance. It's like strengthen the things that have weak points, and you need to strengthen it in your software. Again, 12,000 patches they are try to do it in each release, not in the total, but in each release they do 12,000. Impressive. It is like a snowball. You know the snowball, ding, 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 ding. How many lines of code that everyone depending on this open source project? It is 25 million lines of code. And guess what was this project when it has started? It started with 10,000 lines of code. From 10,000 lines of code, the work of the community, the work of these 15,000 developers jumped to the 25 million lines of code from all over the developers, from 5,000 companies, from. Amazing. When it is collaboratively done, it's amazing. When it is you do it by releases and do changes and patches, it's amazing. So how many, let's say about every day, how many every day the contribution is done? 15 files and nearly 7,500 lines of code in daily basis. This is fantastic. And guess what? One of the top contributor is one of the top companies, Intel. Everyone knows what is Intel. So many numbers just to bring it to you. Not only the kernel, this is just an example. You will be amazed of so many open source affecting our life without we feel. So we need to make generation who contribute to this community. Market share for the web servers. As you would see here, Apache, and even the second browser, which is in the red and the blue, it is open source. So our web servers, okay, the market share, it's around 70%, depending on the open source. In the database management, MySQL, it is after the Oracle. It is an open source. Amazing. The open source is everywhere with high market share. That means the economy of the country depend on them. Governments of North America, Europe, also in India, Asia, also in South Africa, and even in developing countries. Can you believe it? Here, the complete architecture, just to give the example of the web application platform, LAMP. Complete platform given to you. If you are a startup, you want to put a web application to your startup, take it, zero cost. Zero cost, you don't have to pay a penny in your software to build your web application. That's including LAMP. And this LAMP stands for this, LAMP. So Linux for the operating system, Apache for the web server, MySQL for the database, and PHP is the scripting language that you will use for your web application. In the Arab world, since we are from Kuwait and UAE and other Arab worlds, we have a nice efforts. We have some of the examples, GDG Sharjah, GDG Kuwait, and also we have clubs, groups that they are knowing the culture of community and the open source, and they are trying to do nice efforts. Is it like what we see outside? Maybe not the same level, but inshallah it will happen one day to be even more than that. For me, I did a study just last years. This is published in one of my papers, and it's also published as a chapter book, because there is no people talking about open source in the Arab countries. So I did a very deep study. And the good news, we have open source for decision makers in several countries. I put just sample here. I put sample of them. And these are empowered by ministries and governments in the countries. It wasn't there in UAE, last one, but I did it with the help of the TRA. TRA is governmental, a decision maker in the country. And we launched Open UAE. I'm not telling you we are super active, but we are doing a great job. We are raising the awareness, and we hope that we will contribute even more and more with the help of Kuwait and with the help of the other countries. We also did survey, but this survey, it is 10 years ago. That time, it has bad news, but no one did survey after that. We distributed to 70 university students. And guess what? Many, almost half, they don't know what is open source. They don't know what is open source software, and this is a problem. This is where we are here to raise the awareness and to make everyone knows what is open source. You should be, everyone in the computing field should be part of this. In a small or in a big or in any contribution, even by talking about it, you are helping. You are helping to make a big change. Surveys, but this is done in international level by Monzer and Dozer. They compare to Model and the Blackboard. Unfortunately, in our university, University of Sharjah, they are using Blackboard, which is commercial. And many universities, they use Blackboard. It's commercial, closed. But you know how much the university they pay? And you know, universities are not really profit organizations. So universities, they can cut down the budget of this expensive spending in IT if they choose the alternative in the open source, which is Moodle. Some people, they would say, no, Blackboard is much better than Moodle. I'm not saying Blackboard is bad, but is it really much better than Moodle? Exactly doing the same things like Blackboard. We did it. We prove it. There are some researchers did this survey, and really it shows that the user, from the perspective of the user point of view, that Moodle can excel on a Blackboard and students are happier than them. So yes, we need to take big consideration to the back-end user and to make sure that they are happy. Another numbers, which is numbers speak louder, also by other researchers. When you see that, just see please the numbers here, okay? Just see the numbers. Yeah, here, the numbers in the last year and in the last year. You will see by using open source, it will drop down dramatically the cost and the spending, because the cost of the software itself is zero. You might pay 10,000 dirham for someone to put it in your machine. This is fine compared to the million dirhams if you are using them for buying the software itself. But also it affects the other things and it will reduce. Do you know the 3.5 trillion spending IT? How many the open source reducing down? $60 billion cutting down for the spending of the IT if we are using open source. $60 billion. This is, I did it myself with a team in a university in Abu Dhabi. We helped them to put complete platform for open source in a university, okay? And we dramatically reduced the expenses, and it was a very successful story. And since the time that the university launched, they used this infrastructure of the open source and it worked perfect, perfect. Universities need to cut their IT spendings because they are not profit organizations. This is also a project I contributed when United Nations, they asked for a help for Harris, which is a suite of open source tools for managing and supporting health workers in developing country. You know what they requested me? They didn't request me for coding. They requested me to do it translation to Arabic. So just imagine, you can also contribute by your language. Huge contribution for the open source community. It will play a vital role. We are here for community. We are here to solve the problems of poor developing countries. Having the infrastructure of open source can make a huge impact. Why? Because all of these reasons. You are independent from a single supplier or vendor. You are innovative to customize it to have the objective to fulfill all the needs in these countries, in their hospitals, in their education, in their banks, in everywhere. You can deploy open source infrastructure in the developing countries, and you cut down billion of dirhams or dollars. You maintain sustainability. You generate developers who are independent, innovative, stronger. This is important, very important. I like this man. Do you know who is this? Edgar, the president of Peru. He wrote a letter for Bill Gates. Again, I don't hate Bill Gates. I found him himself a good fighter. He was struggling. Their family wanted him to continue law. He didn't like law. He is a successful man, one of the most rich people. But I like this brave man. He wrote a letter to him to stress the following. In order to ensure the free access for citizens to public information, it is essential that data coding A president talk about data coding. Anti-treatment shouldn't be tied to a particular supplier. Leadership play a big vital role. Leaders should make a decision in open source software. Our students, I count on you. You are our future. Many of the session today is our students. And if you are doctors, please spread the message to your students. Open source is a hub. It is a hub for innovators. It is a hub to find yourself, to explore where you can contribute in this huge community and to be part of it starting from today. Our students, the awareness starts from you. احنا خلاص, we are old people. راحت علينا. It comes to you. You are our future. You are our future maker decision. You are our future. You will do the difference, but take it right from now, from your youth, from this early stage. See what is community mean. See how you give back to your community. Start to not think of I am, me. Take it rid of. Contributing, volunteering will give you another taste of life, another happiness. You will feel it not only in open source and even any volunteering job. Should be part of your culture, should be part of your daily objectives. When you stand up, wake up, doing your bed, see what is volunteering in your list. Make it part, and in the first part, not the lowest. I re-emphasize, and I almost finished, the cost effectiveness. It is even for a startup, it is for our youth, for our any generation to start their business with no license fees, with no bond. And we start to not be afraid to crack a software. There is no cracking in open source software. And you know, students, what is cracking? You always crack software and you say for education, inshallah, it's not haram, it's halal. In open source, you don't even think about the word cracking. It doesn't exist in the dictionary of open source. I'm happy to deliver this to our youth and to our colleagues, and I hope I made a little difference in your culture about the open source software. And I hope that you join this community sooner rather than later. And this is my son when he was 2 years old. He's now 9 years old, hoping that we give this generation all the awareness that they need so that they can do actions and impactful actions. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Thank you, Dr. Manar, for this amazing session. It was really amazing to listen to you again. I really missed your voice. It was very motivational, and I'm sure everyone has been very affected by your talk. And I really hope to hear you again in more of our events.
Yeah, I will.
Thank you. Okay, so we'll move to the next speakers from Open UAE, GDG Sharjah, Arab Week, and ACM Student Club. So I think we're starting with Umar and Umniya. Umniya and Umar.
Hello, everyone.
All right.
Can you see my screen?
Yes, the screen is there.
Hi, everyone. Today we are going to present for you one of the open source applications that we are building. And the purpose of this application is face detection and face recognition. In this presentation, we're going to talk to you about the open source tools that we have used and how we use them and so on. So who we are, I'm Umniya Mohammed, a member of Arab Week, also a research assistant in Open UAE Research and Development Group, and a member of GDG Sharjah.
And I am Omar Gouda. Yeah, I am G. Omar Gouda. I am now a master student in University of Sharjah, also in computer engineering. And my undergrad is computer engineering. I am a research assistant in OpenUAE Research Group and a member in IEEE and GDG Sharjah.
So what is face recognition? This technology is about detecting faces in images and then trying to identify people using this technology. So what happens is that because people are different than each other in terms of faces, so using this technology will help you to identify people using their photos or videos and so on. So it can also be used in authentication. So I'm going to talk to you about the project description or why we were building this project. This is supposed to be the one of the first facial recognition systems in Sharjah, our applications, and we're building it in a form of a REST API service that anyone can connect to it, but we're actually building it for a company. And by doing this project, we're going to provide a first facial recognition system or check-in system in Sharjah. So why we're doing it? Actually, we found that face recognition systems is adding a very nice experience and unique experience for the visitors in any event. Most importantly, that this kind of service does not save any kind of photos, so it's totally secure and there is no risk. It's an API and it's easy to use API, so we don't really require a lot of changes for the registration systems. So only what they can do is just sending requests to our API server and receive back the replies. And it is based on open source tools, so yay for us. In this project, we went through 5 phases. We're gonna discuss each of them in fast and quick, but then we're gonna explain more details in the other part. Okay, so the first part or the first phase of the project was about image collection and data set collection. We were able actually to collect 1,600 images for 500 people. So maybe you're gonna say there was already built-in, already available data sets for face recognition systems. However, we try to collect our own because of the nature of the country. So we have people who are using Gatra and hijab and so on. We wanted to have more Arabs in the datasets. And most importantly, we want to have images that have never been used in any face recognition models. So we try to cover different ages, genders, nationalities, and also different eyeglasses or eyewears and head covers. Then in phase 2, we tried to study all the available face recognition models. So here comes the main point. Like if we used if we tried actually to build our own face recognition system from scratch and we build a model, it would never reach the level of the already existing models. Why? Because these models have been used or have been built in supercomputers that are so huge in terms of computation and has been trained for so many days and months maybe. So we are now just taking the advantage of the already existing solutions, which are open source, and we're integrating them into our solution. Alhamdulillah, there was too many solutions to choose from. So we tried in our study to choose the one that will give us the fastest computation, yet very accurate. And also it can do it in less key execution time. We have chose DLib. DLib is considered one of the powerful open source toolkits. The processing speed is very fast and however, the accuracy is very good as well. So it was a very amazing tool to be added to our system. The job of this tool is to extract face recognitions or encodings from images. We'll explain later how this is happening. So what is face features or how, I'm just gonna give you small information about it and then Omar will explain in details how the system is actually working on this. So what we actually do is that the system focuses on detecting the main features of the face, like eyebrows, eyes, nose, lips, jaw, and so on. And then it uses deep learning, which is a model from DLib, to extract the face regions and then try to generate something called encodings. This is an example. Then in phase 3, after we have chosen the best model for computation, we're now talking about the framework. So we were trying to choose the best framework and database for our work. As you know that we are dealing with huge data, so we wanted to have a very nice or powerful database that can give us the fastest execution time and be able to handle all the requests that we're going to do, as well as being parallelizing the work and so on. So what we have chose is Python 3 as a framework backend and Flask REST API. This is what we are using for building the REST API service. However, in terms of the database, we chose PostgreSQL. Why this one? Because actually, if you're trying to think of it, we're doing some calculations. What we're doing is we're trying to get encodings and compare them to all the encodings we have in the database. So this is a huge computation to be done. And if we're doing it in our backend, if we're doing it in the framework itself, it's going to take a lot of time. So PostgreSQL, it has the ability to do this mathematical equation in the database itself. So it is reducing the time for sending the data to the framework and back to the database and so on. So all is done in the database, which is so it is fast and accurate. Also, we are using something called SQL Alchemy. I didn't know this before, but it was such a nice tool to be used in such a project. Why we're using it? Because we are talking about people who will be signing in during the event. We're expecting to have at least, for example, 4 people registering at the same time if we have 4 registration booths. And that means we have a lot of requests per second. So how would the framework deal with this huge amount of requests to the database? So SQL Alchemy deals with this. It's trying to, it's taking the job of handling the queries and managing them, arranging everything to make it very smooth and easy. Finally, our action is not final, but in phase 4, we have done the optimization where we're actually trying to make the code look good. It is working with the highest speed possible and very accurate. Then we integrate everything in the API service. We just told you very few information about our project. However, Omar will have all the details. Omar, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mia. Can you see my slides, everyone?
Yes.
I will start, okay. So after Mia explained the basics or the whole project, not in details, how it works, what did we use, and so on. Now I will dig in details of the system and how we do it to detect the face and recognize it. So to avoid any what we call it, like a clash or misrecognition. If, for example, Omnia is using the system and it gives her like she looks like someone else, how did we avoid this part? So here, yes. Sorry, just okay. So this is the overall system. We have on our side the API server. Here we are hosting it either locally or on the cloud. Most likely we'll use AWS services, Google Cloud, anything that will make the system available everywhere and have the like fault tolerance or no downtime. So the API is hosted, and just the organization need the link that we provide to them with an API key to use it in their web server. Basically, we have 2 main functions, the registration and sign-in functions. They will send the information to our server. The server will verify if the API key is correct, if the person does not exist, and the information does it have any redundancy or not. And if it's correct, it will give the organization it has been registered, or if it's not correct, it will tell the error back to the organization. The general functionality of this solution, like I said, basically we have two functionalities: the sign-in and the registration. Registration will give the API server the picture, the information, name, email, or whatever, and the API key. The sign-in, the API key, and only the picture to identify if the person exists in the database or not. So basically, how does it work? The visitor will sign up in the registration website using the information and picture. The organization server will send us the picture and the name. How should it use? How should it transfer the image to us? Basically, you can take the image, convert it to base64. Basically, you convert it to a string and send us the string. Base64 is perfect in this situation because we can reconstruct the image from this string and extract the features from it. After we extract the features, we compare it to our database. Does it exist? No. Okay, now we have a new user to add, and just add the features of this face and discard the image, so we don't have any personal information about the person, just only the name and the email he provided. And the server will take this response, and then the server will tell the visitor if registration is complete or not. As you can see here, the photo will be taken and some image processing will happen to it to improve the accuracy later. I will go through this in the next slides. Basically, from the image, we take the face encoding array, which is around 128 value in one array, and save it in database. This array have all the features of the face from what my colleague said before, the 64 model, face model. And for the sign-in, same thing happens, but only the picture now is handled. So the user sends the picture to the server, or the server, and 3 different operations will happen and be sent to our API server, and the server will answer back, and the username and the password or whatever the information about the user will be sent back to the organization server. For the face detection techniques, like I said, we are using the image encoding. The 64 face model identifies the eyes, the brows, the mouth, the nose, and so on. From these 64, we calculate the distance between each point, and we will get 128 array of values that uniquely identify the face of each person. And this 128 array, we save it in our database. That's why we chose the Postgres SQL database, as you can identify or create your own extension. We created something called Cube. Cube, basically, we split the array into 64 and 64 vectors, and we use them to identify later on. Like I said here, the same thing. We have the table. The table have the name, any information that we need from the user, the email, the age, whatever, and the encodings next to it. And how the recognition is done. As I said, we split the information into 2 cubes. The first cube will be compared with the first cube in the database of all the entries that we have. If it detects anything that matches, okay, now we have first cube match, and the second cube will do the same thing. If they are matching, now we have the same person. It's simple calculation, Euclidean distance. So all the calculations and so on are very simple, though, so they don't take much time in the database calculation. Now, for the image processing mechanisms and how we improve the accuracy of the recognition. First of all, we have resized the image that we take to 500 by 500 image size. Why? Because the less the pixels that we have, the faster the processing it will take. And also 500 and 5 by 500 is an acceptable value or acceptable resolution to detect faces and detect features from the image. Why did we resize them? Because most of the mobile phones and cameras right nowadays, the least what's called the least resolution that they use is 1280 by 720p, which is still high for our calculation. The second way, the second method that we use is the face alignment. We aligned all the faces, so all the features are calculated in the same way, however the person took the image. If his head is tilted to the right or the left, so we make it straighter. So we calculate the face encodings better and compare it easily with the database that we have. The last one, or not the last one, the third one is the face cropping. Again, from the 500 by 500, we crop the face to a smaller size, again, to make the calculations and detection much faster, less pixels, so it can work on simple servers, or even can work on a Raspberry Pi that has 2 GB or 4 GB or whatever you can use on it. And the last one was the image brightness. Actually, we found from other research papers that the image brightness, if you increase it or decrease it, mostly if you increase the image brightness, it will improve the detection by a higher accuracy. And basically, you are trying to compensate the low lighting of the image, the original images setting. Just 1 second, because when I talk or I present, I forget to breathe, so excuse me for this. Okay. Like I said, we have 4 main processes: that the image resizing, the face alignment, face crop, and image brightness. So how do we make sure that our sign-in or the person is correct, no mismatch is happening? Basically, we do 3 different matches. I'm sorry, I'm hearing myself. Okay. And the 3 different matches, basically, we take the image without any modifications and run it through our API. The second image is aligned and cropped, and the face encodings are generated from the cropped face. And the last one with the brightness increase. If the 3 matches or the most of the images give us the same answer, so the person exists and we have him, and we return the correct person by the 3 different matches. Why we do this? Basically, we mimic that we are doing the matching 3 different times, and by doing the 3 times, the recognition rate will be higher, and it does not take much time to return the demo or the answer. Now, for the demo that we used, we built a web interface for the demo. The web interface, we use HTML and CSS, jQuery, Bootstrap, and Python 3 and the Flask API, as we mentioned before. The basic functionality we have in this demo: the sign-in and the register. The register, you can use the camera, or you already have an image stored in your PC or mobile phone, and you upload it. And the camera, for the sign-in, you only use the camera, so it checks the person live. No, you can't upload an image or store an image. As you can see here, for registration, you just start capturing, and as you can see my partner here in the image, and you enter the info, and if the person does not exist in the database, it will return that the registration is successful and thank you. If not, it will tell you the error exactly. For example, if you have the image without the faces, or the image have multiple faces, or also the last one, the image or the person exists in our database, so no need to register him again. The sign in, as I mentioned before, only start the camera. You can't upload an already taken image in this case. And the camera already is in 500 by 500 pixels to reduce the load on our server. No need to resize it. The image itself is already resized while we take it. And after we take the image, actually here we take, for the sign in, we actually take 5 different images. In these 5 images, we do all 3 processes that we do and return back to the user. Why do this? Because sometimes the user, just before the timer or the image is taken, he moves her face or his face away from the camera and the image is beyond recognition. That's why we take 5 different frames to make sure the user is seen in the 5 different images. And that's it. Thank you for listening or attention. Yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Amar, for your talk. It's been very amazing listening to all of this. I haven't really worked with any machine learning or image processing before, so it's been very interesting. I think maybe we can have a quick 10 minutes break and move on to the rest of the speakers. So, because mashallah, both of the last talks were really long. And so, yeah, so maybe we'll come back around 4:20 and we'll keep the session open for you all. All right. We have the next speakers we're gonna have, Fatma and Taqwa, Nafisa and Hamad. So hope you don't go anywhere. We still have the rest of the day. Thank you.
Industry and almost transforming the whole world. So let's start talking about blockchain. What is it exactly? When you have a group of transactions, it forms a block. And as more transactions take place, a series of blocks are formed and linked like a chain, and that's why we call it a blockchain. So it's like a decentralized distributed ledger that records the provenance of digital assets, and each chain has actually a hash value of every finished transaction, and it saves like the history of all the assets, which make it very secure. And so what makes it actually special is a decentralized network. It comes with a very high security, so you can trust it, and it removes the need for any middleman. But the main drawback of a blockchain is that it works as a standalone system, which limits the adoption of a blockchain. So what are we looking into is how can we make several blockchain networks communicate with each other? Let me give you an example. Let's say that we have Dubai Hospital, and it works with a whole a blockchain network. It consists of patients' records, doctors' records, their assets, and so on. And let's say that there's another hospital, let's take, for example, Canadian Hospital, and we want to transfer one patient from that hospital to another hospital. How are we going to make those two different networks communicate with each other? This is what do we mean by inter-blockchain. So blockchain interoperability is the ability of connecting multiple blockchain networks. Why are we doing this? We want to increase the scalability of the network. We want the ecosystem and the governance to adapt more to blockchain, and we are increasing the privacy and all the connectivity issues that actually occurs. So to give you a brief introduction about the interoperability that is actually happening right now, it consists of three levels: the foundation, structural, and the semantic. In the foundational level, it allows data exchange, but you cannot interpret the data, you cannot interact with the data. As well, in the structural level, you can only interact. And in the semantic level, you can interpret it, you can interact with it, and so on. And by this, I have given you a very brief introduction about blockchain interoperability. And let's move on to discuss the open source projects that actually implement the cross-blockchain communication. And I will leave the floor to Tuqwa.
Now I will talk about interoperable blockchain. There is a big number of interoperable blockchains have been implemented, and they aim to facilitate the interaction between different blockchains. So I will talk about the 5 most popular inter-blockchain projects, and they open source: Cosmos, Polkadot, Arc, Ion, and Interledger. And next. For the first project, it's a Cosmos project. This project is an open source platform, and it is aims to create an ecosystem of blockchains. The architecture is based on the zones and hubs. Zones, it's just a different name of in different blockchains, and hub, it's a first launched blockchain that connect different zones. And for how the zones and hubs are communicated with each other, they communicate through the inter-blockchain communication protocol. So when the zone create a connection with the hub, it can communicate with different zones that that already connected to the same hub, and they can send, receive from different zones. For the Polkadot, it's used the same concept of the Cosmos, but it is used the bridge. It used the bridges instead of the it used the bridges to communicate between parachains and relay chains. Parachains, it's just heterogeneous blockchains that wants to communicate with each other, and relay chains it is just a main chain that communicate that connect different parachains with each other.
And for the bridges, there are two types of bridges in the Polkadot, the models and contracts. Models, it is just a deployable model that deployed into the parachains and make it more adaptable to each other. For the contract, it is the same as the model, but it is for the parachains that support the smart contract. For the ARC, the ARC is the main component for this project. It's smart bridges. Smart bridges are used to create the bridge between different incompatible blockchains. For this project, the main concept is that the blockchain should be compatible with the bridge. So to establish this, the small piece of code should be run on this blockchain, and by that it will establish the compatibility with the smart bridge. And another component is encoder listener. It is like a hub for the listening the transactions that going through the smart bridge. For example, the smart bridge, if two different blockchains want to communicate with each other, and there is a transaction, so the smart listener will listen to this transaction and determine which type is it. Is it an exchange transaction or something, and then process this transaction. For the ION project, it's a fourth project. It uses the multi-tier blockchain network, and it has 4 components. It has the participating networks. It is just a name for different independent blockchains. And connecting networks, it is a protocol that aims to connect different participating networks. Interchain transaction, it is just a name for the transactions that are going through the different blockchains. And the bridge, the responsibility of the main responsibility of the bridge is to validate these transactions that go through the connecting networks. For the interledger, it is the last project and that I'm going to explain. And interledger, this project is mainly used for the payments blockchain. So if 2 different blockchains wants to communicate with each other, they connect through the connectors, multiple connectors, and interblockchain protocol is integrated to these connectors, and the interledger protocol uses 2 phases, two-phase commitment technique, which is the first step is determining the conditions for the transaction, and the second step is to process this transaction if the conditions are met. And that's it.
And with this, we have come to the end of our presentation. I hope you gained some new informative information, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Taqwa. Thank you, Fatima. That has been a very interesting topic. I haven't been into blockchain, so this was a good introduction for me. All right. If you guys have any question for them, you can ask them. You have the chat section for that. We'd like to introduce the next speaker, Nafisa. Yeah, you can.
I'm sharing just my slide. So do you see it?
Yes, it's clear.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. I'll be introducing the use of open source in 2 projects. First of all, my name is Nafisa, and I'm working as a research assistant in OpenUAE Research and Development Group at University of Sharjah. I'm a member in GDG Sharjah and UAE Arab Week. So, as I said, I will be talking about the use of open source in two projects. The first one is drone security and forensics. And I'll just give you a general overview of the project and the tools, open source tools that use in these two projects. So here our aim in this project is to investigate the security vulnerabilities of drones and practically verify that these vulnerabilities can be misused by unauthorized person for severe attacks. Also, as you know, that the increase in criminal cases involving drones draw the attention of drone forensics. So investigators also need to extract as much data as possible from these drones using different tools for data acquisition. So here, just to illustrate what I mean, I will briefly show you an example for a simple experiment that we did using open source tools. And here in our experiment, we used to apply in two drones, DJI Mavic Pro and DJI Tello. So we aimed to detect the Wi-Fi access point of the drone, and then we wanted to disconnect the user from the owner of, or the owner from his drone. Even after the authentication, we keep sending the authentication packets to prevent the drone's owner from reconnecting to his drone again. So to do this, the open source tools we use here are for the operating system, we use Kali Linux, and also we use the AirCrack NG tool. And this is a well-known suite for a well-known suite of tools for manipulating and cracking Wi-Fi networks. Also, before authenticating the drone, we used Mmap to perform full scan of the drone. Using this, so we can scan. Using this scan, we could learn more about the operating system of the drone and the services running on the drone, the open ports, and so on. So we try to connect to the detected drone. Of course, we can only connect to the to unsecured networks. Otherwise, we need to crack the password and using other tools. So here, after we connected to the drones and we put our hands on the drone, we try to investigate and extract the data from the drone. The media files are stored on the SD card, and it was so easy to extract. However, the flight data is stored on internal storage, and this flight data are stored in unreadable format. So to visualize and extract this data, we needed a tool to do that. And here we use an open source tool called DATCON. And we use this DATCON to convert this unreadable data format to a readable data, to a data that we can read. And then this data, we simply visualize it on Google Maps. As you can see here, this is just because we were playing with the drone. And so this is the flight path here extracted from the drone. So this is just a simple experiment, and as you see that all the tools used here for hacking the drone or for converting the data to a readable format are open source tools. So the second project here is advanced persistent threat detection. And just shortly, advanced persistent threats are which are called APT shortly, are kind of attack that targets organization, and it uses continuous and sophisticated hacking techniques to gain access to the system and remain inside for a long period of time. And these kind of attacks, they cannot be detected by antivirus or anti-malware software. So to detect these attacks, at first we needed a tool for logging the network activity all from multiple sources. So we collect this logging activity, which is a massive amount of data. And here we used an open source tool called Bro. And this is a real powerful open source network security monitoring tool that can be used for comprehensive network traffic logging, and it allows us to extract these files and send them to another tool for analysis. Also, this tool can be used to as a scripting tool for monitoring and detection, where you can automate traffic analysis tasks. And just to imagine the powerfulness of this tool, when you will see that it's powerful when you know that it's used by professionals such as Amazon, Intel, Facebook, Dropbox, and many others. So after we collected the data that we need using Bro open source tool, then we use deep learning techniques to analyze the data and detect APT. For this, for implementing our algorithm, deep learning algorithm, what could be better than Keras, which is a deep learning API written in Python and run on top of the machine learning platform, the well-known machine learning platform TensorFlow. And of course, this is an open source Python library. And also, of course, to implement our algorithm, we also used other open source Python libraries such as NumPy, Pandas, scikit-learn, and others. So this is just a brief overview for the projects and the open source tools that we use in our project. Thank you.
Thank you, Nafisa. That was a very interesting talk. I think some of our members in GGG actually are always interested in cybersecurity and these kinds of discussions. So maybe next time we can have you host another workshop to talk deeply about these topics.
Sure. Yes.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure having you. We'd like to welcome the next speaker. The next speaker is Hamad.
Ahlan.
Hi, Hamad. Hamad is the CTO and co-founder of Finest.
Yes.
So you can share your screen and good luck with the presentation.
Okay, can you all see my slide?
Yes.
So my name is Hamad Al-Ghanem. I'm a developer at heart, but I am currently working as the CTO of a company I co-founded called Finest. Today we're going to talk about introduction to open source contributions and technologies through HacktoberFest. I'm going to talk about my story of how I started contributing more to open source technologies and how it started to basically influence the way I code, influence the way I moved forward with the company, and make my life easier. So an introduction about me, I'm the CTO and co-founder of Finest. Finest is a freelancing platform based in Kuwait. I'm a full stack developer. I've worked with C#, Python, Ruby, Flutter, Java, Swift. I've tried so many things. I've been a developer for almost 8 years now. I'm an author of an open source library that have boasted more than 125,000 downloads, or approaching 125,000 downloads. I created a HacktoberFest app. If there are Kuwaitis in the crowd, HacktoberFest is a card game we play here in Kuwait, and people use pen and paper to keep track of the score. So I created an iOS app, and now it's sitting around 40,000 downloads, maybe more. I have developed both the Finest app and the website itself, but I didn't develop them in a month or two. It took me 3 years to finish both parts, because in a business you need to look at the business needs and work through the requirements in order to finish the app in the perfect way possible. And you're always innovating and changing your direction. So enough about me. How did I find about HacktoberFest? So 2017, I attended GitHub Universe in San Francisco, and part of the package I purchased were workshops. And through these workshops, we worked with GitHub related tools such as Electron, Atom, how to interact with them, Glitter also. And throughout the day, instructors kept telling us to take this knowledge and start working on our Hacktoberfest contributions. And then I asked Hacktoberfest, what's that? They explained just like Arwa did in the first presentation. And when I got back home, I thought, but not back home, back to the hotel. I wasn't that sleepy. I just had dinner. So I said, let me just submit one pull request, see how that happens. Maybe I'll get all of them done by the end of October and get my free t-shirt. So I started thinking on what should I contribute to. And it occurred to me that I've been using pipenv, which is a packaging tool for Python. You can use it to install packages and run virtual machines. And I wanted to make it better. So I looked into the source code, looked into the issues, and it took me a while, but I understood most of what I needed to do. I didn't understand the whole code base, but again, I needed to know each issue and which part of the code base it affected. And then I looked and my eyes caught this issue. Oh, no. Before I started looking into issues, you should always look into the contributing document. So in order to get the contributors to look into your pull request, you need to follow these guidelines. And here I have highlighted the guidelines. You need to know how to set up the code on your own machine. You need to know how to run it. You need to know how to run the test suite. And then once you fix the bug, you push it and then you wait. So I checked the issues tab and then I found this issue, which looked fairly easy to me, like to basically summarize this. He wants to install requirements file that's not on his local network. It's on a server. And what interested me is this guy said, I don't see any particular reason why we can't, but it's not added yet. So I'll take it as an enhancement for anyone who would like to put a pull request together. So after 3 hours of fiddling, I pushed my first pull request. And as you can see here, I didn't just push it and forget about it. I pushed multiple additions to it because the people that work on pipenv kept asking for changes, which is fine. And we're going to talk about that later. But at the end of the day, it got accepted and merged. So that was fun. Contributed to a huge project through open source by just taking a few hours of my day and learning how it works. So what happened next? I pushed 3 more pull requests and all of them relating to pipenv because I got so comfortable with the code base that I can keep issuing changes and fixes and they keep getting approved. As you can see here, 3 of them got approved. 1, they said changes are requested. And that is fine. You don't take that as a lose. You take that as a win because each time you push a pull request, you learn more and more. And that goes into your personal bank of knowledge. Again, we'll talk about that later in the session. But what did I learn? Open source communities are friendly and welcoming. pipenv at that time had more than 17,000 stars. And if you look at that number in GitHub, you would think that, oh, maybe they have really strict rules and everything. Yes, they do have strict rules, but these rules are there to help you. They're not there to restrict you. They help you like build good habits, such as writing tests, using code linters, which are programs that make all of your code concise and I keep forgetting what the word is, but it makes your code follow a certain guideline in terms of function naming and everything. It makes you follow certain development guidelines, certain merging guidelines, certain even branch name guidelines. It's not as complicated as it seems. You just need to start. And we're going to talk about how you're going to start at the end of this talk, but you just follow the guidelines and it will pay off. So a few weeks later, I started my own company and I faced an issue, which got me to starting my own library, administrate field active storage. And it's named that way because the guidelines asked me to name it that way. I didn't make up that name. So why did I start this library? I'm using Ruby on Rails, and they introduced something called active storage. Active storage basically allows your web server to handle file upload straight to S3, Amazon S3, or Azure or Google Cloud. And then I was using it, and I was using something else called Administrate. Administrate is a automatically generated admin dashboard for Ruby. And they weren't compatible together. I was building the library to connect them together, and I said, wait, why don't I publish it? I mean, I know I would keep it up to date because I would need it on my own company, but it would make sense that more people need it. Both libraries are used by thousands, if not millions of developers across the world. So I published it. And to publish it, it took me a few tries. I needed to learn how Administrate operates, how it adds a custom field, and even those custom fields have guidelines. I have looked into different custom fields, such as paperclip, administrative field, paperclip, because it essentially does the same thing, but through a different interface. Paperclip is really close to active storage, but it's deprecated. So I forked the code, I made all the necessary changes, and I pushed my own library. Again, attribution, you need to attribute where you got that code. And at the end of my README file, I said, this is done by replicating the work of these guys. At the end of the day, I publish it, and I waited for a couple of months, for a couple of weeks, nothing happened. And then slowly people started coming in. Contributors started filing bug reports. Some of them started fixing bug fixes. Others have been adding features. And it got to a point where my role slowly shifted from a coder, a programmer, to basically a community manager. I started approving pull requests, publishing the library, sometimes rejecting pull requests or asking for changes, facilitating work between two people. If two people are going to work on a certain feature, I would say, okay, you do it, and then if you have any issues, you can ask this guy. And to my surprise, some people, you come back every few weeks to keep the library up to date. And that just makes me happy because I have my own day job, I have my own, everybody has their own work. So these guys are helping you along and making things better without compensation. They just want to use the library and they want it to be better for everyone in the world. So what did I learn when I was building the library? That documentation is very hard. You need to allow the user to be able to use your library the moment they open the README file. They need to know the steps clearly without going back into the issues and issuing a whole issue saying, I cannot use this or this is not working. You need to state a roadmap to allow contributors who are going to come at later stages to know what you're going to build. Maybe they're going to build it for you and push a pull request. If you don't know something, that's okay. You can state it in the README file. We tried to do this. It didn't work. If someone has the knowledge related to this field, can you come in and help us with a pull request? You need to state guidelines. You cannot accept any low quality pull requests. You need to have good pull requests that make sense, that move the project forward. It's okay to request changes on pull requests. So if a person submits a pull request and they have a couple of issues, you can ask them, hey, the comments don't seem that relevant, or you have a couple of debug symbols, you need to strip them away. That's fine. They're not going to hate you for it. You're making their coding standards better while you're maintaining your library standard. And at the end of the day, you need to know that community is key. If you're not friendly, if you're not helpful to people, they will not contribute. So be friendly, be helpful, and people will keep coming and helping you out on your journey. So at the end of this presentation, I want to talk about some tips on how you can start contributing to open source. You can go on with your day, keep working on your projects, your iPhone application, your Android application, your web servers. But at the end of the day, you're going to encounter bugs in some libraries, or you're going to encounter missing features in some libraries. So the least you can do is just open an issue, state what that issue means. So if it's a bug issue, you're going to say the bug happens when I do this and that. That helps the people who monitor that library to come in and fix it, maybe not just for you, but for other people. That's also the same with features. You need to state why you need that feature and why it's important. But then again, you could always even push a pull request. And if you have a good reason, they're going to accept it and you're going to feel very good about it. Trust me, I've tried it. If you keep contributing to open source, your skills will get better, infinitely better. I can guarantee that. I got to this point because I kept looking into open source technologies, reading the code. I get better by reading code. That's how I learn. And by reading the code, I can contribute to that project. You can always start small. You don't need to start by issuing pull requests on code changes. If you find the documentation complicated, issue a pull request by simplifying the documentation. Or as the professor said, you can just translate it to Arabic. It doesn't have to be coding related. Open source can include many people, even designers. Your first pull request is going to be the hardest. It's going to take you a while to get to, but the moment you finish that, let's say, finish line, or you get to that finish line, the rest are easy. Do I have another? Yes. So other notable contributions, as you can see, I used to use Django a lot. So I contributed to Django local flavor. And while I was working on the app a few months back, I was using this library and I issued a couple of pull requests along with this library, which connects Rails to Flutter. But yeah, as you can see, the moment you start, these things start trickling over and you can start seeing yourself issuing pull requests for small bug fixes and you wouldn't even think about it. So thanks for listening. You can find me on Twitter and on GitHub. Also at Finest, we're currently hiring a backend developer. So if you find these things interesting and if you're a backend developer, you can contact us at info@finest.com. And if you have any questions, I'm going to be here.
Thank you, Hamad. It was a really inspiring talk, to be honest. I feel very happy listening to it. And I feel even more encouraged to do this. So I'm pretty sure, yeah. I'm pretty sure the rest of the attendees were also very excited after listening to your talk. And I hope they actually start contributing after it. Thank you again.
Thank you.
If you guys have any questions for Hamad, you can drop them in the chat. And I'm sure he's going to answer you all. Up next, we have Arwa. So Arwa is going to show you how to actually create that pull request, your first request. and I'm sure it's gonna be a cool, quick intro. So Arwa.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sharaf. Welcome everyone. So today we'll have like a short, quick kind of workshop. I hope you guys like it. It just covers the idea of having a pull request and how can we do it. So let me just start by sharing my screen first. Okay. So basically, the start is, first of all, we will do this one. Let me first of all share the slides themselves. So you can guys log in and if you guys want to do it with me, that's fine. If you want to do it later on, that's also fine. It's up to you. It's just a quick introduction. All right. So I'll be sharing the link for the Digital Ocean HacktoberFest. First of all, you need to sign up. Okay. Using the link previously showed. And we need to submit 4 pull requests. All right. So I already did that. I already signed up. So you're supposed to see something here that shows start hacking. And it will ask you to sign in with your GitHub account. I'm already signed in, so that's why it's not showing for me. I have a question. To be honest, this is my first contribution in the Hacktoberfest myself. I didn't get any t-shirt yet, but I'm hopefully will get one, inshallah. So yeah, let's do this. I've done like a repository under my company name, which is Mukankum. It's called HacktoberFest Kuwait. It's a simple where we can play around with it. I'll also share that link in the chat. All right. So basically what you want to do is you want to fork the repository. Then afterward, you want to have clone it locally. The idea is basically what I'm trying to do here is basically just having 3 different files. The first file that I have is, it's profiles, which basically is just an empty, it's just a text that's a brief about myself. So here I've stated my name, Arwal Jasser, academics is Kuwait University, some of my interest, my development, and my profile link, which is my GitHub link. Okay, you can view it as for quick copy pasting. You can view it as a row. I'll try to sign out actually, and you can just select all, copy it, then you can change the info based on your specific information or specific name. So let me try to do it with my other account. Okay, so I'll sign out from Mukankum. I'll sign in as, sign in as Arwa. So name, come on. Okay, so I have already Hamid. So I'll look into Mukankum HacktoberFest. So this is the Git repository. I'll just fork it. I think I've already forked it, if I'm not mistaken. Okay. Then I'll just have a new pull request. Okay. So let me go to, okay, I'm supposed to share my screen. Just a second. Okay. So I've already have the repository in my local machine. Let's try to do like okay, sorry. Try to do like a language with a file of hello world in Python. So I'll create a directory called language and I'll cd to that. Then I'll call touch Arwa. It's called by our names. So if anyone else want to do the same, then that's Sanano Arwa.py. Let's say that's print hello world. All right. Save that and comment it. Get that dash o. Comment added. Hello. File. All right, and get push. Okay. Oh, okay. So I sent it directly to the Mukankum, not under my Arwa. Okay, so I think I need to reconfigure the whole. Just anyone is working with me right now is applying this. Just drop it in the chat. Whoever is doing it, can you say yes in the chat? Okay, awesome, Maria. Okay, so remote people. Okay, so just to explain my own issue right now, my local in my local computer, because I keep using Mukankum for my pushes, so it just pushed to the original repository, but it's supposed to push it under Arwa AL, where you can look into it. We're in the GitHub here under Arwa AL HacktoberFest KW. Then and my pull request will be comparing the both repositories and both changes. So that thing with my own configuration, I need to just reconfigure this local repository with my remote repository that's under Arwa as a user, not Mukankum, if that makes any sense. Am I confusing you guys or no? Okay, so I'll just copy paste the command. Appa. Okay, so the repository name is, okay. Awesome. If anyone have a question, please don't hesitate to ask me. So one thing I might do actually, just to Okay, I'll be trying to fix the error while you guys are doing it live. If anyone have a question, please don't hesitate to drop the question in the chat. Yeah, sure. I'll have it. Okay, so this is the one that I'm sharing. It's supposed to be under Mukankum, Sheikha. So this is. You're most welcome. So if anyone is having issue with the repository, just let me know. I'll be just saying let's hope this command will work. Okay. Status. Okay. Oh. So. Okay, just added the duplicates. I'll try to remove the assembler, the one, the typo thingy. Have anyone contributed in HacktoberFest before? Besides Hamid, of course. Okay. Ahmed, do you want to contribute and speak about your experience and about your repository? That would be nice.
was gonna say I haven't before, but this year I've been excited for it, and I left it till the end of the year, actually till the end of the month.
I've waited a few years, to be honest. I've always been intimidated to
Yeah.
to participate in the HacktoberFest. I think I saw it since just like it was a big deal. It's only for professionals and stuff like that. Knowing that my background is not computer science myself. So that's one of the things I think. But now with me getting comfortable with my own skills, I think I would like to get exposed to a new, let's say, technologies and methodologies of how you code and how to optimize your code, basically. And hopefully one day that's will push it to another level of skills.
Inshallah. I think that's very admirable, to be honest. For me, I think it's also one of the reasons why all of us are always scared to contribute to open sources, because that we always think it's only for professionals or people with huge experience and things like that. But listening to Hamad talk about his experience made me think like, okay, why was I thinking like that? Why was I holding myself back from trying to contribute and offering whatever I have for the community? So I think there's always somewhere to start. By the way, I pushed to the repository.
That's why I had the Slack notification. Nice.
Yeah. But I pushed to my local one, and I'm thinking I want to try and open a new pull request from my master to yours. So can I share my screen to show them?
Yeah, sure. I'll stop sharing.
Okay.
Please do so.
So let me show you.
It's awesome that I have 7 forked already, so that's really cool.
That is. I think you just might need to add the tag for Hacktoberfest.
Yeah.
Because it's not showing up on the repository, so it would count as an actual submission. So for you guys, this is the Mukancom repository, and here is my repository. So I did here, you can see something. You can see here, I added my profile. And if you go here, this is my profile, right, with my interests and things like that. And what I want to do is I want to create a pull request to Arwa's repository. So you go to new pull request and you select which repository you want to merge to. I can see everyone else's repositories, by the way. So I can actually make a pull request to any of them. What I want to do is make a pull request to Arwa's, to the Mukancom one, and to the master branch, all right, with my master branch and repository. So all I gotta do is just create pull request and say I added my profile here, all right? Obviously, you have to abide by the rules for each repository that you try to make a pull request to, and see what you should be actually asking for to do that. So I'll just create this pull request, and it says here it requires a review, all right? So and it reviews, like it requires a review by the person who has access to the main repository, which is Arwa for the Mukancom Hacktoberfest repository. Arwa, I'll stop sharing so you can show them what you're gonna do, all right? Arwa?
Sorry, I was muted. I was answering you.
Oh yeah, I thought I lost you. All right, you can share your screen again to show them.
Sure. So
I can send you the pull request. This is my pull request if you guys want to see it.
Okay. Do you see my screen?
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so here I have the pull request. it shows that Hamad has submitted as well as Shuruk. So once I click on it,
I think you have to be logged in with the Mukancom account, right?
thank you. Okay.
So the only the owner can actually approve the
Yeah.
at the moment with this setup is that only the owner can approve the merges or the main contributor in the repository.
Okay, so let me.
Oh, even Hamad has one.
Yeah. Okay, so I was checking of how to add a label, to be honest. Shuruk, if you know how to do that.
No, we can do that later. That's fine. I think it's not on the label that you have to add the Hacktoberfest label. I think it should, or is it supposed? No, I think it should be on the main repository. I'm not sure actually, but we can do that later. It's fine. So yeah, you can review my commit and you can.
So
see what
like
review changes, and you can actually approve it.
Approve and submit. Okay.
Yeah, and
then
you can merge.
And I'll do confirm merge. And by that we had merge Shuruk profiles. Yep, so back to the pull request, we will do the same for Hamad. So I'll do the comment, review changes. I'll do a straightforward approve.
Awesome.
And voila. So we have our first 2 pull requests that happened on the repository. What I'm trying right now is to add a label to the repository itself of Baka.
I will check how to do that. But
I'm guessing
it's fine if you guys create what do you call it, a label on sorry, if you create pull requests on this repository and then we added a label later on to the repository, it will still be considered as a Hacktoberfest contribution. So don't worry if the label is not there right now. I just hope you guys try and do this. Oh, there's another pull request, Edwa.
Oh.
Who is it?
Khaldun.
Khaldun. He added a Python script. Awesome.
So I'll just review the changes and submit them. That's really cool. We're doing this live.
I really hope everyone gets. Oh, you have another one?
I'm not sure. No.
Oh, okay. I really hope everyone tries to contribute at least once, even if it's not like for Hacktoberfest. But oh, Hamad is saying, I think it's on the right next to about to add a tag label. No, in about. If you go back, I think, or is it this one? This is for tags. About here, about. You see them?
Yeah, okay. On the setting?
I think, yeah. I think it's topics. Yeah.
Okay.
So on topics, you can write Hacktoberfest. Yeah, that's the first one.
Okay.
The first one and the second one.
So I'll save the changes.
And now if you go to your accounts, oh, Muhammad Atif made another pull request. I'm gonna try and open my account on Hacktoberfest to show you how it's gonna look like.
Okay. Do you want me to close, to give you the screen sharing?
Yeah, just one second.
All right, sure.
Second. Okay, you can, I will share now.
I'll stop sharing.
Okay. Let me show you what I did. Okay, we can go to my profile here. Go on. Yeah, and you can see something here. So I got my first HacktoberFest pull request, and it says that it's still, where is it? Your PR has been accepted by a maintainer and it's currently within the review period, which lasts 14 days. I think everyone might need to add HacktoberFest approved tags to the labels, maybe to those pull requests later. But for now, that means we're good. If you see here, so for example, this is another repository I did a pull request on, but it has an illegible repository on it because it doesn't have the HacktoberFest tag on it. You can see all types of legends on how what kind of status your pull request is in, and you have to be careful about submitting your pull requests to any repositories. They should not be spam or empty pull requests on things like changing white spaces or things like that. Because I think if you submit 2 pull requests and they get marked as spam, you will not be able to participate. So you have to be careful with that. All right. So yeah, I think for that you might need to add approved on my the remember how you were trying to add the label to my pull request?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure how this is done, but usually you guys, you don't have to worry about that. That's the main maintainer's task or job to do that. But for now, that's it, I guess. Yeah. What else? Do you guys have any questions? Any questions? No questions. Interesting. Okay, I think.
Yes, we have 3 pull requests so far from Muaz,
nice.
Sheikh, and from Muhammad.
Yeah, thank you guys for the ones who contributed to Arwa's repository. I think later she will mark them as approved, so you can see them as marked in your progress bar here. All right, let's do a quick wrap up and thank all of the the speakers. Please, let's do this here. So yeah, the speakers can also join here. Thank you, Arwa, for helping organize this amazing event.
You're most welcome.
Also, and also thank you to Dr. Manar for allowing us to have Open UAE, GDG Sharjah, Arab Week to join us in contributing to this event. Also, thank you to Fatima, Taqwa, Umniya, Umar, and Nafisa and Hamad, absolutely, for being our speakers for today's event. It's been a great pleasure to have you with us. I was wondering if all of the attendees would like to take a quick picture with us as a group picture to wrap up our cool event with. And if you guys still have any questions, anything you want to add or ask our speakers, you can write it down in the chat. So yeah, so we can do a quick group picture.
All right.
Okay. Who's gonna open their cameras? The rest of the team. We're just gonna take it quickly. Don't worry. Okay. US team. Just gonna give them a few seconds.
Meanwhile, I would like to just share my screen and give them the QR code to have an access for our Slack community for GDG and WTM Kuwait. Please feel free to join us. We have a community over 500 members so far, if I'm not mistaken. We have a huge channels for jobs as well as events. Whoever wanna pitch their own event or who wanna be a co-organizer, they're more than welcome to join us anytime they want.
It's a pleasure for us to have you all, honestly, and it was a really great day with all of the speakers and everyone here. I hope everyone has benefited from them, and I'm sure you have. And if you ever need to reach out to any of us or anything like that, make sure to join our community. Some of Hamad and Arwa shared their slides. I'm sure you'd be interested to join the community and ask them anything you want. Yeah, so we can just take a picture. I'm sure it's been a long day. Arwa, you can stop sharing. Again, thank you all. Let's take it. 1, 2, 3. All right. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
You're very welcome. If any of the speakers have anything they want to add, they are open to do that.
Thank you for the amazing event. I have nothing to add. I just wanted to thank you all.
No, thank you. All right. So that's a wrap for our event. All right. Hope you all have a good weekend, and inshallah stay safe, and we hope to see you again in any of our next events.
And try to do some pull requests in the next 2 days.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Bye.